Sorry for the delay.
No, it's fine, Mataji. We have time. That's fine.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare.
Okay.
Ram, Hare
Is that Jai Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna. So let's do. Would you like to start a kirtan, a short kirtan for 2 minutes? We'll sing after you.
Okay.
Go
Okay,
ahead,
Hare
please.
Krishna. Okay. Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll stop here now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today reciters are Hemangi Mataji will be reciting in Sanskrit and Govind Prabhuji will be reciting in English from Canto 3, Chapter 31, verses 17 to 33. So, and at 8:40, there's a bhajan. So, Hemalata Mataji will be singing Radha Krishna Pranamora, and I will be doing the English translation of the bhajan. So, Himangi Mataji, whenever you are ready, can you please start with invocation 3 times? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 31, Text 17. Dehi anya deha vivare jatharagni na shriga vinmutra kupapatito prishatapta deha ichhanito vivashitum ganayam swamasan nirvashyate kripanadir bhagavana kadanu.
Fallen into a pool of blood, stool, and urine within the abdomen of his mother, his own body scorched by the mother's gastric fire, the embodied soul, anxious to get out, counts his months and prays, O my Lord, when shall I, a wretched soul, be released from this confinement?
Text 18. Yene drishim gatim vaso dashamasya isha sangrahita purutayena bhavadrishena sveneva tushyatu kritane sadinanatha को नाम तत्प्रति विना जालिम अश्य कुर्यत.
My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness, although I am only 10 months old. For this causeless mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fallen of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands.
Text 19. Pashyati ayam dishanaya nanu sapta badrihi sarira kedama sharir apara swadehe yat shritayasham tam aham purusham puranam pashyabahiridi chaityam iva pratitam.
The living entity in another type of body sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body and by whose grace I can see him within and without.
Next 20. So aham vasan api vibho bahu dukkhavasam garbhana nirjitamis bahir anda kupe yatropayatam upasharpati deva maya mithya matir yad anu samshriti chakram etata.
Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy, called Deva Maya, at once captures the newly born child and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death, begins.
Text 21. Tasmad aham vigata vikram udarishya atmanam asutamasa surata manaiva bhuyo yatha vyasanam etad anekarandridam randram mame bhavishyada upashadita vishnupada.
Therefore, without being agitated anymore, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of nescience with the help of my friend, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers for repeated birth and death.
Text 22. Kapila uvacha evam kritmati garbhe dosamasya stuvam rishi sadhya shipati avachinam prashutyeya suti marutaha.
Lord Kapila continued, the 10-month-old living entity has these desires even while in the womb. But while he thus extols the Lord, the wind that helps parturition propels him forth with his face turned downwards so that he may be born.
Text 23. Tena vrashita sahasa kwa krivava kshira aturaha viniksha kramati krichrena niruchuvaso hata smritihi.
Pushed downwards all of a sudden by the wind, the child comes out with great trouble, head downwards, breathless, and deprived of memory due to severe agony.
Text 24. Patito bhuvi ashrin mishra vishtabhur iva chestate roruyati gate jnane viparitam gatim gataha.
The child thus falls on the ground, smeared with stool and blood, and plays just like a worm germinated from the stool. He loses his superior knowledge and cries under the spell of Maya.
Text 25. Parachadam na vidusa pashyamano janena saha anabhi pretam apanaha pratyakyatum anishwaraha.
After coming out of the abdomen, the child is given to the care of persons who are unable to understand what he wants, and thus he is nursed by such persons. Unable to refuse whatever is given to him, he falls into undesirable circumstances.
Text 26. Saito suchi praryanke jantu sweda jadushite nesha kaduyane nagnam asanotada chestane.
Laid down on a foul bed infested with sweat and germs, the poor child is incapable of scratching his body to get relief from his itching sensation, to say nothing of sitting up, standing, or even moving.
Text 27. Tudanti atma tvacham damsa masaka matkunadayaha rudantam vigata jnanam krimaya krimikam yatha.
In his helpless condition, gnats, mosquitoes, bugs, and other germs bite the body, whose skin is tender, just as smaller worms bite a big worm. The child, deprived of his wisdom, cries bitterly.
Text 28. Iti evam shashavam bhuktva dukkham pogadam evacha alabda bhipshito jnanad idamanyu sucharpita.
In this way, the child passes through his childhood, suffering different kinds of distress, and attains boyhood. In boyhood also, he suffers pain over desires to get things he can never achieve. And thus, due to ignorance, he becomes angry and sorry.
Text 29. Sahade dehena manena vardhmanena manyuna karoti vigraham kami kamishwam antaya chatmanaha.
With the growth of the body, the living entity, in order to vanquish his soul, increases his false prestige and anger, and thereby creates enmity towards similarly lusty people.
Text 30. Bhute panchabhir arabde dehe dehi abudo sakrita aham mameti asadgriha karoti kumati matim.
By such ignorance, the living entity accepts the material body, which is made of 5 elements, as himself. With this misunderstanding, he accepts non-permanent things as his own and increases his ignorance in the darkest region.
Text 31. Tad artham kurute karma yad baddho yatis samshitim yo nuyati dadat klesham avidya karma bandhanaha.
For the sake of the body, which is a source of constant trouble to him and which follows him because he is bound by ties of ignorance and fruitive activities, he performs various actions which cause him to be subjected to repeated birth and death.
Text 32. Yadi ashad pati puna shishnodara krito dyamai ashtito ramate chantus tamo vishati purvavat.
If, therefore, the living entity again associates with the path of unrighteousness, influenced by sensually minded people engaged in the pursuit of sexual enjoyment and the gratification of the palate, he again goes to hell as before.
Text 33. Satyam socham daya monam buddhi shri hari yasa kshama samodamo bhagas cheti yat sangat yati sankshayam.
He becomes devoid of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, gravity, spiritual intelligence, shyness, austerity, fame, forgiveness, control of the mind, control of the senses, fortune, and all such opportunities.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for allowing us to recite this. Apologies for any mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Hemangi
Krishna.
Mataji and Prabhuji, for the very nice recitation. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji and Prabhuji, for the wonderful recitation on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Krishna Govinda Das. Please accept my humble obeisances. Today is 19th of July, 2026. I will be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Status Quo, Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movement of the living entities, a continuation from the last few days, last couple of weeks actually. And the verses that we're going to be reading is verses 18 and 20. I'm just going to share my screen. Just let me know when you do see it. Can you see the screen okay?
Not yet, Prabhuji.
No, it hasn't come.
No, I've made you the host.
Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, something. Okay. Hare Krishna. So I'll start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskripta Naram Chaiva Narotanam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtashu Bhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatamutam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. So the verses that we're reading today is verses 18 and 19. Yene Dashem Gatem Asho Dasha Masha Isha Sangrahita Purudeyena Pavadrishne Pavadrisena Seneva Tushyatu Kritena Sadina Nataha Ko Nama Tat Prati Vigya Jalim Asya Kuryat. Translation: My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness. Although I am only 10 months old, for this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, intelligence and forgetfulness are both supplied by the super soul sitting within the individual soul and within the body. When he sees that a conditioned soul is very serious about getting out of the clutches of the material influence, the Supreme Lord gives intelligence internally as super soul and externally as the spiritual master or as an incarnation of the personality of Godhead himself. He helps by speaking instructions such as the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is always seeking the opportunity to reclaim the fallen souls to his abode, the kingdom of God. We should always feel very much obliged to the personality of Godhead, for he is always anxious to bring us into the happy condition of eternal life. There is no sufficient means to repay the personality of Godhead for its act of benediction. Therefore, we can simply feel gratitude and pray to the Lord with folded hands. This prayer of the child in the womb may be questioned by some atheistic people. How can a child pray in such a nice way in the womb of his mother? Everything is possible by the grace of the Lord. The child is put into such a precarious condition externally, but internally he is the same, and the Lord is there. By the transcendental energy of the Lord, everything is possible. So I'm just going to recite the Mangalacharan prayers to join in. Om Gyana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Malatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mayam Tatati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangye Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanasate Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to seek the blessings of our spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Swami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Shrimate Bhakti Swami Tinamane, and two, Jagat Guru Sculptor Church Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Paschyacha Desatayane. Can you also seek your blessings as well, the listeners, so that anything I recite today and the wonderful glories and topics from the Srimad Bhagavatam may be pleasing, truthful, and beneficial. Okay. So let's go back to this verse again and just read the translation. My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness. Although I am only 10 months old, with this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. So just a little recap, although some of the translation was read earlier on. This is a dialogue between Kapila Dev and his mother, Devahuti. So Kapila Dev is actually explaining about the embryo within the womb of the mother after it's been discharged in the form of semen from the man to the woman. As it develops its particular body within the womb of the mother, it starts developing the different body sort of properties as well, like the skin, the hair, the formation of the nose, the eyes, the mouth, ears, the different kind of limbs, the legs, waist and body and so forth. But during that time, as it's growing and developing within the womb, it's in a very tight, confined space, which is filled with stool and urine of its own. And it's also constantly being bitten again and again by the different kind of worms and insects within the womb of within the womb itself. Now, at this time, the child is really frightful. It's by the intelligence of the Supreme Lord in the form of Jivatma and the Super Soul, Paramatma, it can remember, has the intelligence to remember its past 100 lifetimes. So now, can you imagine it can remember the different kind of species of life it had gone through over the last 100 lifetimes? And now it's remembering, and by the intelligence that the Supreme Lord has given him, it's actually remembering, what am I doing here? Why am I suffering? Why am I being trapped inside this womb? I need to get out. I need to, ask for forgiveness. I need to pray to the Supreme Lord. And here, Patita Pavana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, he's actually ready to help the child free from this repeated birth and death, repeated point of suffering, material miseries, anxiety, all sorts of calamities that we face as we are born and live in this material world. But the child inside the womb is remembering all the past lives and is praying. So while it's praying, it's also remembering certain ways of actually using that intelligence to free itself from that very confined place of stool and urine, and also at the same time understanding the suffering it's gone through. So then you may wonder, why is it actually remembering all these things? How is it possible? But the last few verses, we actually understood that the Supreme Lord, in the form of the Paramatma, gives that spiritual intelligence. on the form of the spiritual master. Externally, it can also give that guidance as well. Perhaps in his previous life, it was a particular personality that was formed or part of a sampradaya. And in his next life, he's carried on in his spiritual journey, and the spiritual master has given him that spiritual instructions through that mind, through his intelligence, through that connection from the super soul self. But as the child has been born, we're very fortunate in that we are different from the forms of different species of life, like in the case of animals or birds, trees, reptiles, all kinds of sea creatures, kinds of aviation creatures as well. So we can understand why is there a difference, because within the human form of life, we have high intelligence, we have the ability to understand what is right, what is wrong, what is caring for one another, what is not caring for one another. Whereas within the animal kingdom, its main qualities in life is eating, mating, defending, and sleeping. And these are the same traits that the human life has as well. We're always eating, we're always sleeping, we're always mating, and we're always defending. That is the prime objective of the spiritual world. But the difference is within the human form of life, which is considered to be a higher species of life compared to the animals, which are considered to be a lower species of life, we have the ability to have intelligence. And where does that ability come from? It comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we use that ability to make decisions, right decisions, wrong decisions. We can observe things, what's happening in our life. If we do something good, then we get praise, we get appreciated, we sort of progress in our career, we get progress in our family life, we progress in any sort of material activities. Even in our spiritual life, the more we become spiritualized in our connection to Krishna and his devotees, the more we advance. But on the other hand, if you see somebody who's committed a crime and he goes into prison, and you think you could get away with it by committing the same mistake, the same crime, and you get caught and you get sent away and be locked away in prison. And that's exactly what's happened. This material world, it was what it isn't the Supreme Lord who created this material world. It was actually our own desires as human form of life, as independent living entities. We had the ability to enjoy ourselves, be with Krishna or be independent of Krishna. And because of our selfish and envious nature, we decided, no, I want to be different. Why should I have to follow certain rules and regulations or instructions? Even then, there are not rules and regulations. You have that spiritual connection, that form of highest bliss, eternal bliss, Satchitananda, similar to the qualities of the Supreme Lord, full of knowledge, blissful, and eternal. But unfortunately, because of our connection with illusion, Maya, that which is not, we desire to lord over our own senses, lord over our own sort of directions in our life. We want to sort of please our own satisfaction, please our own senses. And what happens when we go astray from the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We end up being entangled in this material world, being entangled in this material life, where there's repeated birth, where there's repeated hunger, where there's repeated sort of thirst, where there's repeated sickness, illness, ailments, constant suffering, miseries. Of course, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is based on how to free ourselves from this material world, how to free ourselves from this rare form of human life that we have the higher intelligence, to use that intelligence in a way that will please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's our ever well-wisher, and he will do anything he can to help us come back to his kingdom. After all, we are his children. Just like if your own son, your own daughter goes astray, you would do anything to go out of your way to make sure that they still are being cared for. Are they being looked after? Are they in danger? Do they need any help? Do they want any assistance? Even though they may have neglected you or sort of decided to be away from you, you as a parent, you still have that loving connection with your children. No matter what they have done, you know, you would give your life for that child because they're your own blood and flesh. But at the same time, it's not based on material sort of a connection. It's not based on having that relationship with a son or a daughter from a materialistic point of view. But from a spiritual perspective, we want them to come to Krishna consciousness. We want them to become spiritualized. We want them to understand the spiritual world is not a safe place whatsoever. You may be happy for a short while. You may have your own sort of friends, relations, or other people that you are comfortable with, and you don't need your other friends or your parents, to meddle with your life. You don't want somebody to tell you, don't tell me what to do in my life. Don't tell me to pray. Don't tell me to do this. Don't tell me to do that. Of course, we shouldn't force anybody to do anything. We shouldn't force anybody to chant the holy name. We shouldn't force everybody to, do certain follow rules and regulations. But what we can do to train them up in such a way from a childhood to take that development of Krishna consciousness. Play with your children as you would with the way Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda used to play with Krishna. Protect your child just the way Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda used to protect Krishna. Be with your child, be the children's best friend. But importantly, this prayer the child is speaking is actually coming from his heart. My dear Lord, I realize the mistakes I've made in my previous life. My parents were there to help me and guide me. Perhaps I did not heed to them, the instructions. I did not listen to my spiritual master. I fell down. I was on my journey in my spiritual life, but I got attracted by material objects in my life. The senses are very strong. How can I control these senses, my dear Lord? How can you help me in my life? So here, it mentions somewhere here, the child is very helpless, but now he's asking for the Supreme Lord to help him. You've helped me so much in my previous life. How can I ever repay you? What can I do to repay you for giving me this rare form of human life? We don't realize how fortunate we are. In one of the last few verses from the Bhagavatam, from what I remember, it mentions that even after hundreds of years of serving back your parents, will not pay back the rare form of human life that they've given this birth to you. So can you imagine, even though your parents may have given birth to you, even after 100 years of dedicated service back to your parents, that will not repay this rare form of human life. And why is it very rare? Because as you go into the next verse, it mentions about the different species of life, how you can end up being in a particular species of life where you don't really understand the purpose of life itself. You don't understand, what is it I'm doing? Is it just a matter of eating and sleeping, mating and defending, or is there something beyond this? And these are the inquisitive questions that we should always ask. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? What am I supposed to do? Do we really want to stay inside the womb, being bitten by all these different kind of worms? Or do we want to get out from this womb, which is also full of stool and urine in a certain way, but we can transcend that form of mature consciousness by developing a higher level of spiritual consciousness. So now here's a question for all of you. Who was the personality who did not want to come out the womb of his mother, and why? And what happened when he did come out?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shukadeva
Yes.
Goswami.
Yes, is that Jaya Mataji?
Yes, and somebody else as well.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Perhaps you can explain why he didn't want to come out and what happened?
I think he felt that he might be trapped into material world, and he might get too much sucked into it, type of thing, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
He
that's
thought
good.
he thought Maya would take him over.
Yes.
Something.
So, yeah, very good. Did you want to add anything else on? Anybody else?
And it was only because the Lord then had to come and pacify him, and that he came out. Because they wanted him, told him to come out, but he wouldn't.
Yes. So I can imagine he was about 12, 14, 15, 16 years old, and he wanted to stay in the womb. So you may think, well, how is it possible a teenager staying inside the womb of a mother? But of course, anything's possible within the will of the Supreme Lord. And he did not want to come out because he was afraid of the material world. unless his own father, who was Vyasadeva, who was the literal incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, compiled the Vedas and the Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata and so many wonderful literatures. Still, as a spiritual father, he wanted some sort of proof that he could actually be protected from this entanglement of the material world. And he just was within the womb of his mother, completely self-realized, and within the meditation of studying the Vedas, as was recited by Vyasadeva as he spoke to, of course, while he was inside the womb itself. But then the Supreme Lord himself had to pacify, don't worry, everything will be fine. You are already a liberated soul. And he was a liberated soul. He's one of the Mahajans. And when he was born, he did not actually stay in the ashram. He didn't want to be entangled in the material world. He didn't want to be a grihasta. He just wanted to serve the Supreme Lord wholeheartedly. And he went to the forest just to meditate and self-realize. And we're actually grateful by Sukadeva Goswami. Just imagine if he didn't come out the womb, the Srimad Bhagavatam would have taken place. All of us won't be talking at all. The morning classes won't be there at all. And by reciting and attending the morning classes, one is guaranteed to go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, I couldn't unmute on time. But yes, Sukadeva Goswami didn't want to come out because the story actually is a sweet story about his liberation, or already he's been liberated before he was born.
Yes.
He didn't have any material desire, karma in him. Inside the womb, he could see the whole world.
Yes.
What did he see?
Yeah.
He saw all of us struggling like crazy, fighting for money, fighting over family rights, forgetting about Krishna. And he was, and we are stuck in birth, death, and old age and disease. So he didn't want to be living in this kind of world.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah. Why
no,
should I go to the place full of suffering and forgetfulness? So he stayed in his mother's womb for 16 years. Oh my goodness.
I know, it's a long
Yeah.
time. But also,
sorry. Yeah.
that's fine. And when you think about it, 5,000 years ago, what would you actually consider 5,000 years ago to today? I mean, there was no cars, there was no technology, computers, iPhones, or anything like that. So even 5,000 years ago, he was actually under the pretense that this material world is a dangerous place and he did not want to come out. So can you imagine 5,000 years on now, how the material world has changed so much that, our roaming senses can be driven away by all these attachments, the sense objects that's always constantly attached to some sort of attraction in our life. So in the particular verse, it mentioned this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada was referred to. This is from Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Just for time, I'm just going to read the translation. I am seated in everyone's heart. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So just going back to this verse earlier on, Srila Prabhupada mentions about the Bhagavad Gita, intelligence and forgetfulness, and this is so important. So while you're young, all of you are young, you should try and study as much as possible. You should try and remember the shlokas. It's not that we want to be philosophically advanced, but I find that when you recite those shlokas and you remember them, when there's a time of difficulty and you remember a particular shloka, then you think, wow, Krishna, you're answering me a prayer. There was a test one of my devotee friend did, and he took a Bhagavad Gita and he went onto the streets and he said to people on random on the street, okay, are you having some personal issue in your life or something happy in your life? And they say yes or no, whatever. And he says, okay, turn to any page in the Bhagavad Gita, and he flicks the pages over and they pick out a particular verse. And that particular verse actually relates to the issue or the problems that that particular person is facing. So you can understand the power of the Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses. If you try and remember these verses, then intelligence will always be there. The forgetfulness of forgetting those things that we don't want to remember, the material attachments, But we don't want to forget Krishna. We don't want to forget these slokas. We don't want to forget the beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So remembrance is important as well. Remember how grateful you are to the Supreme Personality of Godhead every day when you wake up. Thank you, my dear Lord. I can see, I can smell, I can hear, I can taste, touch, all those five senses. Have you been with a person who's not able to talk? Been with a person who's not able to see? Have you been with a person who's very invalid? They're not able to walk. They have to go to the hospital, a lot of appointments, medications, all sorts of ailments that we're getting nowadays in this material world, cancer, Parkinson's disease, all sorts of ailments. If anybody's a doctor, they probably know this story better than I would. So now I'm going to go to text 19. Pashati ayam dishanaya nanu shabda varadrihi sharirake dhamma shariri aparasvadehi Yashristaya samtamaha purusham puranam Vasche bahi hridi cha chaitam iva patitam. You'll have to forgive me, my Sanskrit pronunciation isn't the best. So, translation, the living entity in another type of body sits only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and the disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses. I can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body and by whose grace I can see Him within and without. So can you imagine, this is such a beautiful verse, can you imagine all of you inside the womb of your mother? We can't imagine that, can we? Now, can you imagine while you are inside the womb of your mother, because this is the Shastra, it can't lie. This is actually, these words are given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So each one of you must have been a devotee while you were in the womb of your mother, because you prayed for respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord. You prayed for forgiveness. You prayed, my dear Lord, please help me get out of this material entanglement. But what happened to all of us? What happened to me? Gosh, all of you are okay, but I'm space case number one. Anyway, we'll understand why, what happens to us when we're actually born. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, the evolutionary process of different types of bodies is something like that of a fructifying flower. Just as there are different stages in the growth of a flower, the bud stage, the blooming stage, and the fully fledged growing up stage of aroma and beauty. Similarly, there are 8,400,000 species of life. And just add one more to that, and that's me. Our body is a gradual evolution, and there is systematic progress from the lowest species of life to the higher. The human form of life is supposed to be the highest, for it offers consciousness for all getting out of the clutches of birth and death. The fortunate child in the womb of his mother realizes his superior position and is thereby distinguished from other bodies. Animals in bodies lower than that of a human being are conscious only as far as their bodily distress and happiness are concerned. They cannot think of more than their bodily necessities of life, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But in the human form of life, by the grace of God, the consciousness is so developed that the man can evaluate his exceptional position and thus realize the self and the Supreme Lord. The word Dhamma Sariri means that we have a body which can control the senses and the mind. The complication of materialistic life is due to an uncontrolled mind and uncontrolled senses. One should feel grateful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having obtained such a nice human form of body. One should properly utilize it. Okay, I'm just going to stop there because there's quite a lot to the purport itself. Let's go back to the beginning of this purport. So this is a gradual bodily evolution that we go from this lower species of life to the higher form of species of life, which is a human species of life. And depending on the different modes we're in, goodness, passion, ignorance, those are in the mode of goodness, go higher to the heavenly planets, those in the mode of passion, live in the earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go downwards to the hellish planets. So most of us are in the form of passion because we're living in the earthly planets. But what is that gradual evolution? is from the tiniest insignificant insect growing up to the different species of life to like some sort of aquatic sort of species of life, then the sort of different kind of species of life in the animal kingdom, a bird, a reptile, a mammal, and then we go to the highest species of life. Even within the human form of life, there's 400,000 species of life. You have a lower form of human life, and you have a higher form of human life too. But all these places, it says that from the highest planets in the heavenly kingdom down to the lowest planets are all places of misery. So can you imagine why is there misery within the heavenly planets? Because ultimately, when you've used up your piety, when you've used up all your credits or spiritual acquaintance, unless you remember the Supreme Lord, and the reason why you're actually in that situation, why you're going through this repeated birth and death, this old age, disease, etc., unless we actually understand and how we free ourselves by considering and developing a mood of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead wholeheartedly. Most of us might be thinking, why they keep talking about this again and again and again. The repeated birth and death, diseases, old age. We're all going through it. Why is it any different? Why should I take up the Krishna consciousness? So this is where the different reality kicks in within ourselves. The higher form of species of life and the animal species of life. In the animal kingdom, we just go on about our daily activities. We feel happy, we feel concerned because there's always danger around us. There's always enemies. There's always something bigger than us that want to attack us and eat us. And we're just happily eating away. Just like if you see a trap for an animal, the animal goes inside thinking there's food and it gets trapped. And then another animal comes in and says, oh, look, there's some more food. But not realizing the first animal's been trapped already and takes that chance because it wants to satisfy its hunger, doesn't see any dangers as such, and it goes inside that trap and it gets trapped again. So we're like that kind of animal species of life. We can see what's going on in this material world. We can see people suffering. We can see what's going on. But because the senses are so strong, we do not have the ability to always control them. But how do we control them? By engaging all our senses, our mind, our intelligence, touch, taste, smell, sight, hear, in the service of Krishna's pleasure. Sometimes there may be that pride within us, oh, I'm serving Krishna like this, I'm doing this for Krishna, why is nothing happening to me? Why is somebody getting advanced more quicker than I am? Why is it somebody can perform this kind of ceremony and I can't? Why is somebody cooking so nicely for Krishna? I've been cooking for so many years and it's always turned burnt khichdi. I can't even make proper toast without it getting burnt or something, or hot milk without it spilling over from its pan. But it's all to do with patience. It's all to do with sincerity. It's all to do with your ability. Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it to show? Are you doing it for Krishna's pleasure? Then you'll be surprised. The more you sort of let go of your ahankara, the more you let go of your false pride, the more you let go of I am this body, the more you let go of your senses are yours, but you're using that in Krishna service, the more you develop your Krishna consciousness. As we mentioned many times, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Well, the 9 processes of devotional service, of course, the most important is Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord, and also remembering the Supreme Lord. As the Bhagavad Gita, it mentions, he who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his mind is always constantly remembering me, and does not deviate from this path, O Partha, he will surely come to me. Do we want to come to Krishna, or do we want to come half-half? Because we want the material enjoyment, we want a nice flashy car, we want a 65-inch TV, we want a nice big house, we want this nice prestige, we're a manager, people recognize me as a high-status politician or celebrity. Or do we want to serve Krishna in the best way we can by surrendering and letting go of everything? Maharaj Bharat, he let go of everything, his kingdom, his wife, his family, his wealth, all the royal army. He gave it all up. Why? He gave it up to surrender, go to the forest and serve Krishna. But in due course of time, the senses got the better out of him and he became attached to a deer. And at the time of death, he remembered the deer rather than remembering Krishna. And in his next life, he became a deer. And of course, a beautiful story goes on. He did eventually go back to the spiritual world where the Vishnu Dutas took him away personally. The same with Ajamil. He was born in a beautiful Brahmin family. He got attracted to a prostitute. The mind, the senses are so strong that it's very difficult to control. And then at the time of his death, he remembered his son, beloved son, his name was Narayan. The Yamadutas came to drag him away, take him to the lower palace of the hellish kingdoms, but the Vishnu Dutas protected him. So we may not be perfect in our spiritual journey. So in that beautiful verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, even if one commits the most abominable action, he is considered a saintly person because he is properly situated in his determination. So we may commit sins that we don't realize. It may be offending a devotee. It may be something that we may have done inadvertently, not realizing the mistakes. Sometimes it could be for a genuine reason, like say at work, a stationery cupboard. We always take things for granted. Oh, it's a notepad. Maybe I'll use it for Krishna service, but we're still, in one way, we're taking something that doesn't belong to us. As it says in the Sri Upanishad, we should only take things which actually belongs to us and not touch things that knowing well that does not belong to us. Because there's a consequence for everything. There's a karmic reaction. But when you actually remember that you made that mistake, you repent, you ask for forgiveness, you recite the prayers of forgiveness, you recite the prayers of developing humility, developing honesty, developing a reflection on making sure that you don't make the same mistake again, then of course Krishna understands your endeavor. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So even though the animals, they have a high level of intelligence to a certain degree, because how would they understand how to migrate from one country to another country in a cold climate to a hot climate? How is it that they know how to defend themselves? How do they know how a horrible looking moth turns into a beautiful butterfly, or a caterpillar, horrible looking caterpillar turns into a beautiful moth, a butterfly? These are all by the arrangements of the Supreme Lords in the form of Mother Nature. They have their own intelligence, their own ability, they have that function, but still, if you see, like in a tree, there's berries on a tree, and a pigeon is eating away the berries, and another pigeon comes, and there's plenty of berries within that tree, but yet the first pigeon is getting angry because this other pigeon is encroaching in its space, and you see that two birds fluttering and fighting with each other. And this is the form of human life as well, because we're fighting all the time, trying to be something better than somebody else. We want something that we have enough already, but we selfishly don't want to give it away. We have this pride within us. But once you let go of this pride, once you let go and understand, Krishna, you are the supreme controller of everything. Everything belongs to you. Everything, the past, present, and future, everything exists because of your sort of kindness, your sort of endeavor in supporting all the living entities to free themselves from this entanglement of material birth and death. So this word Dharma Siriri mentions, it's very important. It's a body which we can control the senses and the mind. And how do we control the mind and the senses? By remembering that the Supreme Lord is the source of all the material worlds. He is the Supreme Father. He's the benefactor and well-wisher of everyone. Just trying to think of that particular verse. I think I did mention here. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service, worship me with all their hearts. So we want to understand, Krishna, you are the Supreme Father. We just want to take shelter of you. There's no absolute truth higher than you. You are the source of everything. And then there's that particular verse. How do we know the Supreme Lord is our spiritual Father? This is one of my favorite verses. Well, just 700 favorite verses from Bhagavad Gita 14.4, the three modes of material nature. It shall be understood that all species of life are son of Kunti are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed given Father. So each of you who are in the womb of your mother, pray to the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is the seed given Father. So although the Father may have produced a semen entering into the womb, into the mother, anyway, but where is that seed? Where is that living soul coming from? The Supreme Lord is the seed given Father. Okay, there was another verse I wanted to share, but I think because of time, I may have to go to the final verse, text 20. Once again, the purport is very long, so I'll abbreviate it. Soham vasanapi vipo bahudukha vasam. Soham vasamapi vipo bahudukha vasam. Gabana nirji kamise bahi andakupe. Yatra payata upasapati devamaya. Mityamati yadanu sanskriti chakramitat. Translation, therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy, called Deva Maya, at once captures the newly born child, immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death begins. So, purport. As long as the child is within the womb of his mother, he is in a very precarious and horrible condition of life. But the benefit is that he revives pure consciousness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord and prays for deliverance. But once he is outside the abdomen, when a child is born, Maya, illusory energy, is so strong that he is immediately overpowered into considering his body to be his self. Maya means illusion, or that which is actually not. In the material world, everyone is identifying with his body. This false egoistic consciousness of I am this body once develops after the child comes out of the womb. The mother and the other relatives are awaiting the child, and as soon as he is born, the mother feeds him, and everyone takes care of him. The living entity soon forgets its position and becomes entangled in bodily relationships. Entire material existence is entangled in this bodily conception of life. Real knowledge means to develop the consciousness of I am not this body, I am spirit soul, the eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Real knowledge entails renunciation or non-acceptance of this body as a self. So there is a bit more to the purport itself, as Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada so beautifully explains. But, we should be so fortunate that here it mentions about as soon as we come out from the womb of the mother, we're a child, we're helpless, we're blind, we're sort of been surrounded by love and protection by our parents, by our family members, brothers, sisters. And then we're feeling very, very cradled. We're feeling very, very protected. We're feeling that there's no need for any sort of consideration. Most of you as children, you always felt protected by your parents. They took care of you, they clothed you, they bathed you, they fed you, they washed you, cleaned you, took you to school, gave you all the toys you wanted in your life, gave you all the facilities in your life. But somehow or another, we were in this illusion that the mother and father are protecting us. But as soon as you are on your own feet, you have to defend yourself, you have to go out, work, maintain yourself, get a mortgage, pay for bills, one bill after another bill after another bill. So many other financial commitments, taking care of your health, taking care of social needs. Then we just don't have any time for Krishna, just like Lord Maharaj says to his beloved children friends, you must take up this Krishna consciousness now. And they're saying, why, Prahlad? We're so young, we want to play. We can take up Krishna consciousness some other time. Yeah, we want to play. But Prahlad Maharaj says, what will happen? The first 20 years, you're studying, working hard, then you get married, then you have children, then you become grandparents, then you become invalid in your life. And do we want to become a situation like that? As Bhaktivinoda Thakur beautifully explains in his beautiful verses of his songs, now I've come to the fag end of my life. Now I've committed all my sinful reactions and I feel repent. I feel remorse. What have I done? Why did I waste my life away? Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. We have to wake up, my dear souls, and me including, especially me. We have to wake up, identify ourselves that we're not this body, we're spirit soul, we're part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And we're so grateful to Srila Prabhupada. We don't realize how fortunate we are with Bhaktivedanta Manor and Radha Krishna Temple here in London. I was talking to a wonderful devotee I've known for 40 years. He does a lot of preaching in the Middle East and Ethiopia. And he was explaining in the Middle East, in Qatar, and those kind of places, they have to have undercover sanghas just to talk about Krishna Katha. They cannot go externally on board where people can see them speaking about Krishna, talking about Krishna. Can you imagine no singing of the holy name of the Lord? Where will we be without singing the holy name of the Lord? They have to go undercover. There's lots of Sangha groups. They all get together regularly, speak about Krishna Katha. Here we're so fortunate. We just don't realize. But my selfish nature is that we don't take advantage from a spiritual perspective. The beautiful lordships, beautiful prasadam, the beautiful devotees, the beautiful visiting spiritual masters and leaders of the society. We should take advantage of each and every one of them. What are we doing to help ourselves Krishna consciously? We may be in a certain way in our own home, our own mandir, our own temple, our own puja, but you as an individual, somebody brought you to Krishna consciousness. So we must do that bit for Srila Prabhupada, help others come to Krishna consciousness. There's no one more dear to me than he who glorifies about me to other devotees. Not to just other devotees. There may be people who you may never know have come in touch with Krishna consciousness. People that you may have come in touch with somebody, but you may have forgotten. For instance, a few years ago, somebody had sadly passed away, but a friend of theirs came to me and said, "Oh, Prabhuji, do you remember you gave a Bhagavad Gita to my mother?" And I can't even remember that. And she was so grateful. She used to read the Bhagavad Gita. And this little gesture, we are so fortunate that we should try and give a little book to our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues. We don't need to preach to them about 4 regulated principles, about chanting 16 rounds. Just be really good friends with them. And they see a transformation. When I started the Padavasena campaign in the early days, a few friends who came and joined the Padavasena, they didn't know much about Krishna consciousness at all. And they started joining us. And I said to one person, "How come you into drinking and smoking and that? You gave it up, or what? You become attached to the devotees?" And he said that basically you're doing something amazing, something wonderful. You're doing something for your culture, your spiritual heritage. And I feel guilty that I'm not participating in serving and helping in ensuring the legacy of our culture stays on. And that's what we've got to do. Dear devotees, there's a few other things I need to say just to pacify and purify my mind. But all of you, please kindly bless me and forgive me if I've made any mistakes. There were some beautiful verses I wanted to share with you, but before I get banned by the GBC for taking too long, I'll let the devotees carry on with the next phase of the kirtan session. Thank you very much, everybody. Vajikapataruvisha, Kripasindhubevicha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the very nice class. I wonder if you could share the, here we are. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, today we have a very nice kirtan called Radha Krishna Pranamora, and our singer is Hemlata Mataji, dear Hemlata Mataji. But before Mataji sings the beautiful bhajan, I'd like to invite Kirtida Dulali Mataji to read the English translation, please. So, Mataji, when you're ready with the translation, please go ahead. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving the opportunity. Translation of the bhajan. The divine couple, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, is my life and soul. In life or death, I have no other refuge but them. In a forest of small Kadamba tree, on the bank of the Yamuna, I will seat the divine couple on the throne made of brilliant jewels. I will anoint their dark and fair forms with sandalwood paste scented with chuya, and I will fan them with the chamra fisk. Oh, when will I behold their moon-like faces? After stringing together garlands of malati flowers, I will place them around their necks, and I will offer tambula scented with camphor to their lotus mouths. With the permission of all the Sakhis, headed by Lalita and Vaishakha, I will serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Narottam Das, the servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, longs for this service to the divine couple. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for the English translation. So nicely read. Thank you. So, Hemlata Mataji, are you ready to sing the bhajan, please?
Yeah, Hare Krishna,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna. Thank you.
राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर जीवाने मरने गति नहीं मोर राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर कालिंदीर कूले केली कदम्बेर बाना कालिंदीर कूले केली कदम्बेर बाना रतन वेदीरा उपा बसाव धुई जाना राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर श्याम गौरी अंगे दिवा चंदनेर गंधा श्यामा गौरी अंगे दिवा चंदनेर गंधा चामर ढुलाबो कबे हेरिबो मुख चंद्रा राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर गाथिया मालतीरा माला दिबो दोहर गाले गाथिया मालतीरा माला दिबो दोहर गाले आधारे तुलिया दिबो कर्पूर तांबूले राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर ललिता विशाखादि यत सखी वृंदा ललिता विशाखादि यत सखी वृंदा अज्ञाया करीबो सेवा चरणारविंदा राधा कृष्ण प्राण जुगल किशोर राधा कृष्ण प्राण मोरा जुगल किशोर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दासेरनुदासा श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दासेरनुदासा सेवाभिलाष करे नरोत्तम दास राधा कृष्ण मोरा जुगल किशोर राधा कृष्ण मोरा जुगल किशोर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे हरे थैंक यू माताजी थैंक यू एवरीवन हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Mataji, so beautifully sung. Thank you very much. Hari Bol. Thank you. So, dear devotees, I'd like to invite Krishna Govinda Prabhuji to come back, please, and rejoin us. And Prabhuji, maybe some devotees might have some questions or realizations. Are you ready to accept any questions or realizations?
Yeah, sure. If anybody has any questions, any comments or corrections, please do let me know. Oh, actually, here, I didn't read this part. It actually mentions about Sukadeva Goswami. By the influence of Maya, the external energy, one forgets everything just after birth. Therefore, the child is praying that he prefers to remain within the womb rather than come out. It is said that Sukadeva Goswami, on this consideration, remained for 16 years within the womb of his mother. He did not want to be entangled in false bodily identification. After cultivating such knowledge within the womb of his mother, he came out at the end of 16 years and immediately left home so that he might not be captured by the influence of Maya. The influence of Maya is also explained in Bhagavad Gita as insurmountable. Okay, and then it mentions about Mam eva ye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. Whoever surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna can get out of this false conception of life. For that particular verse, I believe it's as all who surrender unto me, I'll reward them accordingly. Does anybody know of any other verses that may reflect on your spiritual journey that's specific to your spiritual connection in that verse that Krishna may give you certain instructions? It doesn't have to be on this particular topic, but say a particular verse that you can reflect on, and you always think about that verse whenever you have certain thoughts in your mind.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
I
Can you
have a
call it again,
question. Are you waiting for the answer, or shall I ask my question?
As long as it's just not complicated.
No, it's not. It's to do with the. Why does the soul remember all past lives only in the womb?
Yeah, so
And what does that tell us about how suffering makes us turn to Krishna?
yeah. So on the first verse that we read on the purport, I'll just go back to
Yes,
it.
it is about the first person.
It just mentions that somewhere along here. So somehow or another, the Supreme Lord gives intelligence internally as a super soul and externally as a spiritual master, as an incarnation of the personality of Godhead. So by the interaction of the super soul, while the embryos within the womb, as it develops its consciousness, it develops its all its senses, develops its skins, tones, and everything else, it's actually coming to a point where the super soul itself interacts with the Jivatma. So the Paramatma is actually given intelligence that we may not scientifically be able to prove, but because the Shastras are the words spoken by the Supreme Lord, it mentions that it gives that ability, intelligence, to allow the child to remember its past 100 lifetimes. So for most of us, it's very difficult to understand and conceive. But the same thing we could argue about reincarnation. How do we know who we were in our past life? Once we die, we die. This world is meant to be suffered. We just have to live in a happy way, which is free from anxiety, free from criminal activities or sinful activities. But here specifically says that by the will of the Supreme Lord, externally and internally, as a super soul, it gives intelligence to the super soul, to the Paramatma, to the Jivatma. And that way, the soul itself is coming to a point where it's actually understanding all the problems, issues from its previous life, its suffering, been bitten by all the worms and other sort of toxins within the womb of the mother. It comes to a point, why am I suffering? Why am I suffering? Why am I suffering? And you may think, how is it possible that a little child who can't even speak, can't even talk, can't even walk, can understand all these things? But don't forget that intelligence, so although it's one of the 8 material energies of the Supreme Lord, what are they? Fire, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. These 8 constitute of my separated 8 material energies. So they're still part of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Mind, intelligence, and ego. And that mind, intelligence, ego is also the subtle body. So you have to remember that subtle body goes from one body to another body.
Not there. No, Darwin. No.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So you have to remember the subtle body has the ability to remember its previous life. So it goes from one soul to another soul. Well, it's the same soul, really. It's just from one body to another body. And it takes that subtle elements with it as well. Although the mature elements are perished away or distinguished, earth, water, fire, air, ether, which are the gross elements of the body. But the subtle part stays on. So the subtle part, from what I understand, that intelligence stays, and the little child within the womb actually remembers his past 100 lifetimes. I mean, most of us, we don't even have the ability to remember what we did yesterday or even an hour ago, but this is the will of the Supreme Lord. It gives that intelligence. Yeah. I can't give any further explanation except for what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. So if anybody else knows of this, a particular sort of the prayer of the child in the womb may be questioned by some atheistic people. So in one way, we may sort of consider, how is it possible? Can we conceive this? How is there any scientific experimentation that the child can remember? But in most cases, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, there's many things that is written in the Shastras, many things that we weren't able to comprehend by our limited intelligence. But if we develop that shraddha, that faith, that devotion, then we somehow accept it. But don't accept it blindly. You still have to be inquisitive, still have to ask authoritatively. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. Just try to Just approach your bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So you have to also follow the instructions of your authorized spiritual master from the Sampradaya, authorized Sampradaya, then we can understand many things that beyond our comprehension. I mean, if we were to really, really study the Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm sure most of us would say 80% I still can't understand. How is it feasible? How is it possible? You know, but somehow or another, we just have to understand this is the words of the Supreme Lord, and this Shabda and this personality are non-different whatsoever. Hope that answers
Yeah,
your
it's
portion.
very, very beautiful. Thank you, Prabhu. And the other thing is about the prayer you mentioned. We all pray, I will not be misled by Maya again. And, you pray for whatever, for forgiveness. What is it? What's one kind of thing of comfort that will keep us away from our promise to Krishna?
Keep us away from Krishna or keep us to
Yeah.
Krishna?
Well, you're praying to be with Krishna, but then you go
Yeah,
back and make your sinful act,
yeah,
aparad again.
sure.
What is it that
Okay, sure. I
we
explained
can't let
that.
go of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I explained that briefly in the last verse that we read from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Basically, it mentions that as soon as it comes and takes birth, it's under the protection of the parents, it's under the protection of all the family members, it's protected until a certain age of its life. Food, comfort, home, clothing, everything's been taken care of. And during that time, because they've been disconnected from the spiritual reality, they assume everything is being supplied by their parents. And because of that, there's a level of false ego that they develop, that desire that everything comes to me because of my own goodwill. They forget that connection to the Supreme Lord, that as soon as your parents go, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to feed you? Who's going to support you? Who's going to look after you? And there is a lot of children out there who are living in a broken family. We have to also understand a lot of those prayers that we make and our early points in the womb of the mother is also to do with our piety from our previous life. So all of you within the womb of your mother, you must have prayed, my dear Lord, don't let me forget you. And Krishna, because he's the supreme well-wisher, it does actually mention the Supreme Lord, he doesn't want to see you suffer. He doesn't want to see you hurt. And as I mentioned, the parents, even though your child may be going astray, the love a parent has for a child, even though they may disown their parents, you still have so much love and affection for your children because they're your blood and flesh, they're your love. They mean more to you than your own dear life. So you want to take care of them. So can you imagine Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in the hearts of every living entity, or reside in the hearts of every living entity? He wants to make sure that you don't suffer, you don't come back to this material world. He wants to make sure you want to come back, progress from your material journey to the spiritual journey, back to the heavenly kingdom of Goloka Vrindavan. And when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, it actually mentions about Gopa's journey when he goes through the different levels of heavenly planets, the different phases of his spiritual journey. Then ultimately, when he comes to Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna is crying. Can you imagine Krishna crying, the Supreme Lord? Krishna, he doesn't fear anybody. Fear personified is frightened of Krishna himself. But yet, Krishna cries to see his devotee come back. You know, do we not want that? We cry when we see the lordships, their beautiful form. Please, my dear Lord, be manifested within my heart all the time. But do you think Krishna would cry for us? Of course he does. But because of our lack of intelligence, we still think, Krishna, I need this, I need that, I need this. That false ego comes in. Even as devotee, there was a wonderful retreat. I went to Sweden, and His Holiness Swami Keshav Bhagavan Maharaj gave us such a wonderful topic on Mayuri Kadamini. It's also the processes of devotional development in the 9 stages of Yoga Ladder, from the early stages of Shraddha, then going to Ananta Nivritti, to Bhava Bhakti, to Prema. But he explains that even devotees in that prema stage, there's a level of tinge of pride. I am qualified, I'm learned, I am sort of advanced, I'm a Sanskrit scholar. But that prema is obviously slightly different from the prema that the gopis have. So we just have to be careful that that knowledge is very, very important. It helps us during difficult times, but that knowledge could also be the cause of our downfall. I know one particular personality, I can't mention his name, but I was quite a young boy, and he was a Sanskrit scholar to Srila Prabhupada for writing and helping and assisting his books. And in those days, it was quite unheard of. But he gave a class for 5 hours at Bhaktivedanta Manor. I was quite young at that time. But sadly, even after being so scholarly, so learned, so knowledgeable, had the association of Prabhupada, he drifted away. But somehow or another, Krishna is so merciful and so kind. And somebody actually asked him a question of all the personalities he's met, because he works for United Nations now. Who is the most important and significant person that you've ever met in your life? And he said, without a doubt, Srila Prabhupada. If it hadn't been for Srila Prabhupada, I wouldn't be who I am right now. And that's why when we are grateful to the devotees, we're grateful to our acharyas, to our spiritual masters, we may find certain flaws in devotees. But we have to remember, just like the Ganges is filled with froth, is filled with a bit of dirt and pollution, but the Ganges itself is pure by nature. It's just because of our sense perceptions in certain dirty fragments on the Ganges, we think it's impure and we don't want to have a bathe in it. But devotees may have certain flaws, but we must always remember those flaws are very, very insignificant compared to the flaws that we may have. Our internal desires. We may not reflect them externally, but internally, Krishna knows exactly what's in our heart. So that's why it's so important, reading, chanting, remembering. And I find more than important than anything else in the world, is really good devotee association. Devotee association who helps you advance spiritually, connects you in a way that you think, wow, this devotee is so advanced, is helping me overcome my difficulties in my life, helping me in my journey, the six stages of love, giving prasadam, receiving prasadam, giving gifts, receiving gifts, revealing one's mind, and also listening to someone's mind as well, being revealed as well. Helping each other in that way really helps us. So we may sort of have so many desires, ahankara, false ego, pride, anger, and illusion that keeps us away from Krishna. But the more we keep connected to Krishna's devotees, who are by nature so sweet and so beautiful, so wonderful, that they have no personal desires for themselves, but only wanting to bring you to Krishna consciousness as well. Is there any other questions or comments? Anybody else wants to add at all? Okay, I think it's 10 past, so we'll call it a day tomorrow for tonight, so we can get up early tomorrow morning and carry on with our beautiful remembrance of Krishna in every possible way, whether we're going to work, whether we're at home, whether we're serving our family, our children, our grandchildren, our parents, just whatever we do, just always remember Krishna and never forget him. Thank you everyone for
Thank you
listening.
very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Kripasindhubhyascha,
kripasinduvyeva cha
Patitanam
patitanam pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hari
Thank you, everyone.
bol, Hari bol, Hari bol, Hari
Hari
bol. Thank you
bol.
so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you. Hare Krishna,
Hari
Krishna
bol.
Prabhupada.